President Tinubu is back from the UK where he went for a private visit. Before then, he was in Paris where he attended the Financial Pact Summit. The focus of that summit was to restore space to countries that face difficult short-term financial challenges, foster development in low-income countries, encourage investment in green infrastructure for energy transition, and also taking a holistic look of recovery of economies from impact of COVID-19 pandemic, as well as exploring rising cases of poverty and providing access to finance. For more on the president's first 100 days in office, I'm joined by development policy analyst and now special assistant to Speaker House of Reps on New Media, Olabamji Jowosimi. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, Nifemi. I'm glad to be here.
Well, first, congratulations on your new appointment. We're looking forward to your engagement in the coming days. But one of the things that have been trending online is, where is the president? He's back in Lagos now after his first official visit out of the country. And that received quite some buzz with the many promises of foreign direct investments and, what have you. What do you make of his engagements, particularly with investors and the diaspora community in France?
Yeah, for me, I think quite elaborately that contrary to what some Nigerians expect, that some who have thought that the economic summit it's a debaters club, or it's a forum for public speaking contestation. No, economic summit is where leaders of countries seal deals. It's where deals are being brokered and where leaders network and negotiate, investment for their countries. And in that vein, I understand the feelings of people who thought, oh, the president should be right in front there, speaking and giving all the buzzwords and the sweet heavy words. They have to understand that first of all, the president is the youngest in the line of assumption of office on that line. So apparently, he cannot jump the line over and above those that have been in office before him in their respective countries. But in terms of sealing deals, the president as the chief marketer of the country, I think on the sideline did elaborately well. And some of even his heavy critics have, agreed and have aligned to that thought. That saying, look, he met with the president of the Export and Imports Bank, President Benedict Oraimo, where they sealed investment, and the man gave his assuring words. He gave his unambiguous pact, saying, look, we are going to invest more in Nigeria because Nigeria leads, Africa would also follow. And if Nigeria can take its rightful place at the forefront, then the rest of the continent can be guaranteed of success in huge magnitude. He also met with the president of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And I think the president made a very reassuring words there in unequivocal terms, saying, look, you cannot ignore Nigeria. You ignore Nigeria at your peril. What he did there is to make a very bold statement, saying, look, Nigeria is not a country on the slave bank begging for pity. We are the largest market in Africa, and you should be eager to invest and do business with a country such as ours. So he has been crossing all the T's, dotting all the, and making sure that in the eyes of the international committee or in the eyes of the global community, Nigeria is sold in the appropriate manner. I think he did that quite well. And most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, the president met with the Nigerian community in France. There are many of them who may have lived in the country, in France, that is, for long, may not have been in their home country for so long. They may not have had the opportunity to come home, vote, and participate in the electoral process. They have the opportunity to engage with the president directly and ask the relevant questions. And the soundbite we got from that meeting, we saw that the president ticked all the boxes, and accurately so. Where he said, look, our diversity should be an asset. We are children of the same father, living in the same house even. Only that maybe we are actually occupying different rooms. And that is instructive.
Indeed.
That is a mark of a leader, I must say.
Well, it's all looking good in this early days, particularly some of the promises it keeps making and the body language that is being read, via many of the engagements he's had. I just want us to touch quickly on the mild drama with the tweets from the Director General of the World Trade Organization. Remember that he had tweeted a picture where tweets did say that she cropped out the image of the president. That was blown out of proportion, right?
I agree so. But we have to agree that somehow many of us have not transited from summer to winter. Many of us are still in that election mood. Many of us are still almost like we are still campaigning for our individual candidates. The elections are over. A winner had emerged. We have a president, a GCFR on seat. So supporters across all divides must understand, and elaborately so, that it's time for governance. The people that reacted saying, look, why did the much respected DG of WTO, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, crop out the picture? I think they have to now begin to see themselves more as citizens, no longer exactly as supporters of candidates of political parties. We are all citizens. Nigeria is the only one asset we have. I must guard it jealously, regardless of political affiliation and alignment. So I think the DG did very well afterwards, saying, look, she cannot disrespect the president of our country. After all, the country gave her the slot she occupied. Without the support of the country, the then President Muhammadu Buhari, perhaps the very brilliant Okonjo-Iweala wouldn't be sitting on that seat. So she knows she's one of our best assets globally. So she knows she's not a kid, and she knows that, look, I cannot ignore my president. Only that these big men and women do not really handle their social media themselves. So sometimes these errors come from the handlers. It could be overzealousness, it could be personal issues with the handlers. However, we blew it out of proportion,
Well,
and
I think she
we majored
eventually
on the
gave the
minor.
explanation about posting the pictures as they came in. But let's turn our attention back to Mr. President's decisions, in his first few days in office, which seem to have enjoyed some goodwill from a cross-section of Nigerians. But how long more does he have to enjoy what seems an understanding? Someone calls it his honeymoon season as president. How long more does he have? Because right now, the price of fuel, you know what it is. We understand that electricity bill is just about going up as well. How long more does this president, have to bring real solutions to these problems before Nigerians begin to react?
Yeah, first of all, I welcome back the president, our father, leader, and mentor, back to the country on a safe trip abroad. However, I would say he is not exactly in honeymoon period. I think, on the contrary, he has proven that he does not need an honeymoon. What leaders do mostly is that in the first few days of their assumption of office, they try to do the popular things. They try to take the popular actions where people will love them and say, okay, you're welcome back. What the man has done is to take the difficult route instead. Like in a relay, even though during the campaign, Ashwaju kept saying it is not a fiscal contest. I think he has proven that it's a relay. The moment he received the baton from Muhammadu Buhari, the man picked race almost immediately. And Reuters quite described that more eloquently than I've just done. By saying, look, I understand that we are not short of policies in this country, but the problem our leaders have is sometimes when they make these policies and the consequences are not exactly attractive, then they renege and reverse those policies. He said quite elaborately on that day, saying, look, subsidy is gone. Just in case you are thinking that when I get to office, we will have meetings and discuss how it can be extended, knowing fully well that 24 hours is not just a long time in politics, it's actually eternity, even in life generally. In those 24 hours, many things can happen and things can change. Then the man begins to think, all right, it's been cornered. Let's give it time. No, we have to remove this 7 trillion loophole and block it and see how the people can breathe, how the poor can actually survive. This subsidy as beautiful as it has sounded for decades, does not in its awesomeness benefit the poor. Only few, macroscopic few of the country benefit.
Talking
And
about the
aftermath of
subsidy
that,
removal, Olabamiji, the conversation out there would be that it's 29 days after that pronouncement was made, and we're yet to hear from the National Economic Council as to what their decision is on the federal government's intervention. Is that something that disturbs you?
Well, not really. I think you can see the meetings they've been having with the labor union. Therefore, I think there are discussions around increasing the minimum wage, the percentage increase yet to be agreed. And of course, I expect that with the arrival of the president, he will begin to form his cabinet, that is ministers now. Without this full cabinet, sometimes governance can be a little bit shaky. Now we have a National Assembly, which is ready to act. We have an executive that can now send the names across. So when we have a full cabinet, and upon discussions and negotiations, some of these things can't just be done by pronouncement saying, okay, because we pronounce subsidy gone, that has actually been prepared for by Buhari, then let's also begin to pronounce the mitigating and ameliorating instruments. No, we have to meet, the cabinet have to draft these papers and say, okay, now, transportation. Does it not surprise you that the oil marketers that we have all demonized and saying they are the catalyst of our problems are saying now we are even ready to partner and see how the people, the suffering of the people can be mitigated by donating buses and making sure that they do not really feel the pangs of the effect of the subsidy removal. So I think with this cabinet formed, the governance will be more.
And that definitely is expected to come in earlier than the previous government that took 6 months. We understand there's a law now that gives him only a 2-month window to make that happen. But you've seen a little bit of his appointments from special advisors to the chief of staff, as well as other critical roles that he's appointed. What are your expectations for his ministerial council, particularly the appointment of younger people to fill that position?
Yeah, I think, like I always say, the best way to predict a man or to predict the future actions of a man is to examine his past. So from Ashiwaju's antecedents, you can expect women, you can expect young men and women generally in his cabinet. I think he had given it some proportion, 40% here, 20% there. So we expect young people, and we have seen it even in the appointment of special advisors. So the way those special advisors were configured, I expect their spirit to be transmuted into the ministerial announcements. That is, we have people in their 40s, maybe people in their 30s, early 50s, and we have to also have some that are more experienced to also galvanize and energize that team. We may have the return of some of the super ministers of Buhari's government. I don't want to mention names, but I must mention one of my most admired politicians and administrators, Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola. I expect him to be back in the fold. I expect an Rufai back in the fold. So I respect an Rufai in the fold, being a former FCT minister, being a two-time governor of one of the most complicated states in Nigeria. Such experience, wealth of experience is expected. And we see in the essay, we see a balance of politicians and technocrats. That would also most likely replay itself with the ministerial list,
all right,
I'm sure.
We have to go now. Perhaps we allow you settle down into your new role before, asking you about your new principal, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, who had an overwhelming support to emerge as Speaker. We are looking forward to seeing him match, that support with action. Thank you so much for your contribution. Olabamiji Jowosimi is the popular, legendary Joe on Twitter. He has a very poetic way of expressing his political opinion. Thank you for talking to us on First 100 Days. Well, that's our program today. Watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and also at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. I'll be back at the top of the hour with more.